Continuing divinization. Another challenging word for me to say. The great Swami Beyondanand, that's another word, talks about television, vision, as an opportunity to tell a vision. He suggests people share their vision of a world on a regular basis. People can channel information, but, he says, it is like changing a diaper. No one wants to be responsible for the information, but they all admit it's the best to change it regularly. So if you must channel information, be sure to change the channels as often until you can find one that is clear and stay out of the nanas. Holodynes causing incoherence or mental illness can come from channeled information just as well as from any other source. Channeled information may originate from parallel worlds and people who channel. Other personalities are most often an example of mental illness. Usually such information has at least some degree of acceptance in society. They can be filled with doom and gloom prophecies, predicting cataclysmic catastrophes, giving information from so-called advanced beings while spreading love and peace. The problem with channeling is that almost all of the time these channels are irresponsible and unaccountable. So this is like the Ramthas, the people that wrote the book The Secret. Anybody that I see that's doing any form of channeling, they're friggin' mentally ill, and they don't know it. And anyways, I'll continue. Making information divine attributes its source to the supernatural, some ancient or future superhuman being, or to God. Such information may become institutionalized as part of the church organization and implant in their theological foundations where the crazy-making thinking can go on unobstructed as the work of God or under the guise of entertainment. They may roam society as one of those who channel, giving sage advice to people who have forgotten who they are and, like sheep, blindly follow the advice. When challenged, the entity being channeled will usually change the subject, giving a variation of what was said, given a complicated that diverts the issues at hand or camouflage the conversations. Which that's why if I ever got in a room with Ramtha, it's like, man, would there be a shifting of a few questions that I would ask, because a lot of it is nonsense. Most channelers are getting you to accept death in one way, shape, or form. They'll be saying life is short, so enjoy it at the cost of sinning, but your enjoyment of, your short life that you have is what exactly will kill you, but they'll try not to make that obvious. They just are like, as long as you're enjoying your life, you won't notice that you're killing yourself. And most channelers give you that advice. They will all say life is short, so enjoy it. It's just such an insane game. Anyone involved in war games will recognize the similarities. These channels are mostly old war holodynes seeking to establish their existence among a new collective. Some of the information involved evidently comes from parallel worlds, since rarely can it be identified as coming from the present. If anyone doubts that war games are a form of mental illness, please be advised that denial is not just a river in Egypt. Devinalization legitimizes mental illness, and it legalizes war. And look at who Ramtha is a warrior, a battler. Check out anybody that's doing any form of channeling and find out what these entities are actually doing. They are people that have always been at war. And they usually show up with people with multiple personality disorder. It's the same thing. That's why you can see shapeshifters. You look at somebody that has multiple personality. They can change eye color. They can change. You can get a scar when that energy comes in and had a scar on their body. The person that has the multiple personality, when that entity comes in, their body will literally have a scar. When the entity is gone, the scar is gone. The eye colors change, personality, voice, physiology, everything can change when this other entity comes in. And that's why a study into this is what's happening with these elites. A lot of them have been so severely abused by their own family members or by the churches that they believe in, that they form multiple personalities. And they think this is really cool because they can access different entities that they are perceiving this to be time traveling. So a lot of things that you're seeing that are really, really friggin' weird in the world are just the reality coming from some really severely mentally ill people, that they're only really mentally ill because of the severe abuse within their family trees. They are definitely supportive of war. They're all involved in war. They have no value for life. Anyways, I'll keep reading. The good news is that information coming from presence is always accountable. The best news around is that each of us has the power to transform any holodyne that enters our field, no matter how divinized it has become. We create our own solutions. The power to create is so inviting, so intoxicating. We invite problems in order to find their solutions. Who then is courageous enough to identify those holodynes that are dysfunctional or could be classified as mentally ill, and yet is accepted within the collective as divine? Who could possibly facilitate the transformation of such embedded holodynes? The answer can only be found among those who are within the event horizon of each mentalities, and to some extent means all of us. Mental well-being is collective, and it is individual choice. It is both individual and collective at the same time. So the good news is that the more our global collapse happens, those who really want to unfold solutions, potentialize, the negative experiences we're having and unfold it into the solution, by 2012, we could create complete change. Or we could just ignore the problems and completely self-destruct and have the patterns repeated over and over and over again. When we choose to communicate with our holodynes, we accept responsibility for our part in the whole dynamic. Consciousness in all its dimensions is potentially part of the rest of the dance. Because each set of circumstances is part of one whole dynamic, every set of circumstances faced here is driven by some implicit order coming from parallel worlds. We are communicating all the time, even during the chaos. The question is, what are we communicating? Are we aware of the messages? Are we conscious of the coherence that exists among one's full potential self, one's holodynes, the one's internal and external environment? What we call mental illness is caused by closed information systems that are not coherent with one's full potential self, one's holodynes, or one's internal and external environment. Such holodynes are seen as immature, lacking information, or insensitive, and thus dysfunctional. They do not agree with other holodynes. They do not view the world through the same eyes as do our friends and family and society. They may not agree with the parallel worlds from which they come. They cause problems. These self-contained holodynes can attempt to perpetuate their information without regard to their host or society. The result is chaos, and chaos is a byproduct of the transformation process. So, you're seeing a lot of chaos these days. It's because we're in a process of transformation. My cat is going for the bird. Once a person realizes that intercommunication is possible among holodynes and multiple dimensional worlds exist, he or she becomes more capable of being effective in dealing with the symptoms of mental illness. Channels, for example, may believe they are able to channel information from other entities, from parallel worlds, and from the past or future. Once they align with their full potential self, they realize that no outside entity is needed to understand reality. They cannot blame the information received on anyone else. They are responsible for their own view. They take responsibility for spoken words and their own actions. This is the first step towards psychological well-being. I'm having a little bit of a discussion with DMT, I think is the drug, and meditation, and these are all still forms that you need to go so far into something else that you're not willing to actually deal with the problem. Meditation is still the same form of a drug that if you can only just disappear, get rid of all of the thoughts, and then you'll come clear. And it's like, why would you want to do that? You know, yes, meditation is a good thing as long as you're transforming problems into solutions. But if meditation is just your way of never dealing with anything, you know, keeping your mind blocked at all times, you're still not present. The recognition that we are responsible for 100% of our reality is a state of mental health. Those who don't accept this responsibility work under a very real handicap. They can ignore anything they don't want to handle. Still, even though they may not be aware of it, this handicap is chosen by them for specific reasons. Every handicap is driven by potential. Rarely does the one who channels accept responsibility for the entity who is supposed to be the channel. In either case, however, the entity is only that same person in a parallel world. Once we own the lives we lived in other worlds and the life we lived here in this world, we become more integrated. We become more coherent, more powerful, and less polarized. So if you're channeling, the only person that you're channeling is yourself, but yourself in a different space-time. And you're dealing with yourself in a space-time where you never solve the problem. That's why it's always going to be bad information, because you died. And you died because you didn't know how to solve the problem. You weren't responsible. It's really, really wild shit. Ultimately, human dynamics, male and female, good and evil, have and have-nots, sick and healthy, in this world or in some other world, are one whole dynamic. Human behavior is part of one dynamic dance of life. The games we play with one another, levels within levels, worlds within worlds, are all part of one whole dance of life that is designed basically for the fun of it. We dance on vacation with love, enlightenment, and empowerment so we can manifest our true loving nature, rediscover our enlightened state of being, and empower our magnificent character. Life is a planned vacation, one we each chose to take part in. From this perspective, linear and non-linear games are a form of polarization that allows for the dances in general. They are part of our entertainment, so to speak. Within this amazing complexity of life among our inner world of holodynamics resides both our major challenges and our deepest meanings of life. Even the most negative dances of mental illness and collective dysfunction, such as war, terrorism, disease, crime, ignorance, are created for the purpose of unfolding their solutions. Every problem we create can be effectively solved. As Swami says, we do not have to change the world. All we need to do is toilet train the world, and we would never have to change it again. Within this solution is the synergy that lifts mankind to new levels of consciousness and creativity. Within our worst polarizations are our greatest treasures. Sometimes the simplest of solutions can make a great deal of difference. What would it be like if corporations, communities, cities, military, and nations are toilet trained? In other words, can our collective consciousness mature? The answer to that question depends upon whether we choose particle, wave, or holodynamic presence. That is the end of that chapter. That was a massive chapter. So that now I will go on to chapter 3, the linear shape of consciousness. Stay tuned.